I'm really excited to be talking with you guys about Spellbound today. This is such an interesting kind of film, especially coming from Netflix. When we're talking about Netflix family, we're talking about animation. For so long, especially for you, Alan, I guess you've really defined what we've come to know as the Disney sound.
Yeah.
And now we're learning that no, that's the Menken sound.
Thank
And
you.
I want,
New players,
yeah,
thank you.
I wanted to ask you, what is it? What kind of thematic elements are within the music that you create within your pieces that are you? What are the Alan Menken Easter eggs that we know
Oh,
when we hear this, it's you?
well, I like to think that all of it is something, I think all my writing is an homage to something bigger than myself.
Mm.
I love music. And I love the heart of going back to classical composers or the great, you know, writers of standards or Broadway or, classic rock, you name it. Um, and I love just using music as a vocabulary to give voice to characters. I mean, originally I wanted to be like, a singer-songwriter and, but musicals is the most amazing form to work in. It's just
Mm.
incredible. And as far as um, the vocabulary or the role of music, I often say Little Shop of Horrors was actually the touchstone for everything we did at Disney, really. It really started back there, an off-Broadway rock musical, but only in the form. The truth is, you're always taking vocabularies and using them. And Glenn is
Mhm.
an amazing collaborator in using vocabularies and different styles to give definition to characters and stories.
Well, and I wanted to ask you, Glenn, I know you two work together on Tangled as well. And one of the key songs from that film is, At Last I See the Light. And we have a song in this film that is very focused on light and being able to reach the light and go to the light.
Mhm.
Glenn, tell me about the idea of what the light means for you and why is it so important to have it kind of mark those more sentimental moments.
Interesting. Well, so I don't actually think about it as something that's specific to me. When
Mm.
Alan and I work together on one of these projects, we are laser focused on the characters and the plot and the script. Before every song, we work at length with the writers and with the director and the animators, figuring out what the central idea is. And for this particular piece, um, we had the darkness is a major force in the film. Uh,
Right.
and so when we were looking for the signposts that would lead Elian along her journey, one of the ideas we hit upon was the idea of light, the light in your heart, the light in other people being the thing that guides you away from the darkness. And I didn't really even make the connection with Tangled until you just brought
Well,
it
and
up.
Tangled really, in a way, they
Yeah,
also have the
yeah,
actual lights
yeah,
for Rapunzel
yeah.
that she sees.
But like it's such a beautiful image, and when you're working in a genre like animation, that's an image-based genre, it is something that really can just sort of illuminate the theme, so to speak, which it does.
Right. One thing that's so interesting, I'm glad you mentioned kind of that you're taking into account the character. However, we have a story in which Ellie and her parents are transformed, but really this is a story that could be related to by children who maybe have disabled parents, who have someone who's dealing with dementia, any type of thing that is blocking communication. And we kind of see that as it goes through the film.
Mm.
When you're writing the music, when you're writing the lyrics, are you taking into account all those different kind of avenues, or are they just kind of a happenstance of an overall theme?
Oh, no, we're absolutely taking that into account. In fact, the thing that drew Alan and I to the project in the first place was that this is not just a fairy tale story. It has the look and the feel of a fairy tale story, but it really is about those family dynamics and about parents and children grappling with issues that are bigger than themselves and that get in the way of the family unit functioning properly. Um, and so we were very aware that that was something that was going to be captured by our audiences. Very careful to make sure that we were honoring the real psychology of children and parents, and that in that as far as the songs go, that we were providing songs that could be the kind of talismans that children can take with them out of the movie for comfort.
The heart center of this is that incredible vulnerability
Right.
in a teenage child, and how much you can miss that if you and be blind to it, and then realize later that in focusing only on your own life, how you've neglected them, and it's very poignant.
It really is. And it's so interesting how the music can kind of accentuate it. It can kind of bring it down. It's all kind of a part of it. I wanted to know, Alan, do you create themes for your characters? Does Alan have her own kind of specific music or thing that goes into her? Because you could feel it with the different characters, the way that they were underscored, that was kind of their thing. But I was like, am I overthinking this, or is this a part of
No,
it?
no, no. But the thing about songwriting is the theme will be, the and it's the song is the strength of music and lyrics together is it cements the emotional context of a theme in such a strong way, and that's one reason why I don't want to write a movie song score without also being able to do the underscore, because I want to use all those threads and weave those threads.
Using themes like that also lets us do sort of subliminal messages. There's a song in the film called Remembering, which doesn't feel like anything you've ever heard in an animated film before, because it's not a big sweeping ballad. It's quite a small moment. But in that song, Elian and each of her parents have their own themes. And the way Alan has composed it, those themes kind of interlock, come together, drift apart, just like the characters are. And it's even though as a listener you don't understand, oh well, here it's harmonizing and here it's in discord, and they're almost overlapping but they're not quite, but you feel it in your gut, and you feel
Right.
that those parents and that child are trying to find a way to sing together and not quite able to do it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about, so we have this, it's very Spanish influenced. And I kind of caught some things that were like thrown in there. Tell me about kind of the art of including that within your score and still making it sound like a very kind of, classic movie score, but with these different kind of Spanish elements in it.
Well, the Spanish wasn't, first of all, I think the flamenco, for instance, on Step by Step, in a sense, they're doing a dance of manipulation and seduction, really.
Mhm.
I always aim to find a unique musical vocabulary for each project. And so this was a tough one to find the appropriate musical world, because the world of this doesn't exist in any real place. But we really went for a world music kind of approach to this. So you have Spanish, we have Brazilian, we have Bollywood, we have Eastern European. All these influences are Arabic, are coming through it. And it's really, the world of the inner emotion.
Now, Glenn, I know actually you both have worked on projects like Sausage Party, which is very adult themes. But then I love it. It's so fun. But then we also have Spellbound, which it's not quite as demure as like a full out, classic Disney project, but it rests kind of in that middle where it has a modern kind of take with it. How much freedom were you given in terms of lyricism, you spoke a little bit about remembering how it really does sound different than what we've heard before. And in the lyrics, there are some modernisms that definitely apply that we necessarily wouldn't have been able to see before. What was that like?
That's what we wanted.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, when we were conceiving this film, we really wanted Elian to feel not like a classical heroine from a fairy tale, but like a modern 15-year-old girl.
Right.
And we did that in a lot of different ways. Some of it is having her be a little bit slangier and talk in a more modern way. We talked a little bit about her self-presentation. In the opening number, she's kind of breaking the fourth wall and talking to the audience as she's walking us through her life. And we talked about the metaphor being, if a girl had her phone and was kind of like talking to you through her phone and showing you what her world looks like, so that you would have that kind of contemporary feel. Because we didn't want you to think about Elian as a fairy tale princess. We wanted you to think about her as a girl you would know, as your daughter, as your friend, as yourself. And yes, I mean, we made a real effort to, not just myself, but the animators and the script writers as well, to keep it feeling like a contemporary story, not an old-fashioned story.
But I do want to point out that from my very first foray into writing an animated film, Ariel is entirely a contemporary girl. Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? So we've always tried to make those characters as modern in sensibility as, or just universal in sensibility.
Yeah, and I will say, as a songwriter, I really kind of learned how to do that from Alan and Howard Ashman. I saw The Little Mermaid. I was still in college when it came out, but it was like earth shaking for me. It was like,
Yeah.
you can do that. You can say, what's that word again, in the middle of a song, and just break the rhythm and have somebody talk to you in the middle. It was revelatory, and yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely aspiring to match that classic Ashman Menken feel in this new context.
Yeah. I think
Yes.
Elian is a classic. I'll say animated. Ingenue, she's absolutely a modern girl. And the more modern we made her, the more the whole team was, yes, yes. When we got to What About Me? What About Me is a temper tantrum, and a deep one. And a fury and totally, and we said, okay, we have to earn that.
And
I,
credit to John Lasseter and to Vicky Jensen and to Skydance and Netflix, because that's the kind of thing that you're not often allowed to do in animated films, to show your main character being ugly, to show her being selfish, to show her being petty. But because she's such a good girl, when those emotions break through, it feels real. She feels like a real person. And that's how a real person would act in that situation.
well, I think Rachel did a fantastic job,
Oh,
and this cast is stacked. You guys have so
my God.
much talent within this. I want to know, was there anyone that you were particularly excited to write for and score for? And are there any outtakes of just Jennifer Lewis doing her thing? Because I need them.
That's interesting to know. I'm not sure because some of our recording was done during the pandemic when we were doing a lot of work remotely. They're all exciting to work with. And I mean, to work with Nathan Lane. I had worked with Titus Burgess because he played Sebastian on Broadway. John Lithgow, oh my God. Jennifer, of course, and Javier Bardem. I had worked with him on Little Mermaid. We had a song we ended up cutting for Triton.
Oh.
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel is the heart center of this.
She really, you can tell there are times where she reached heights that I don't even know that she knew she could do, and there was such a triumphant kind of nature to her voice and to the way that she sounded. It was really beautifully done. I wanted to ask about the Nathan Lane and Titus Burgess of it all, because we have Nathan Lane, who has more kind of a vaudevillian style theater voice when it comes to singing.
Yeah.
And then we have Titus, who's one of our belters. Yeah, he's just like,
the stratosphere.
give me a note and I'm going for it. Tell me about kind of mixing those two styles together in such fun numbers.
Well, they are essentially a couple. They're therapists and they're together. They live together, and there's that chemistry between them.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's, two totally different voices, but they were really enjoying playing off of each other a lot. And I mean, as theater professionals, the respect that each has for the other was just unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, they each love what the other can do, realize what they were bringing to the party, and we just sort of set them free and let them go.
Well, you mentioned John Lithgow. I know this was his first animated film in like 20 years or something like that in terms of like an animated musical. And he's always, he's had that background, but was it just like riding a bike with him? Was he ready to go? Or did you guys do any kind of work together to just inform that performance? Because it was really special.
Well, I have to actually credit Chris Montan. Chris
Mm,
Montan had been head of music at Disney when I was working there a lot. And he came over, he basically had retired, and then we got him out of retirement for this, thank God.
nice.
He did an amazing amount of work with John. I
Mhm.
have to say, did you put the hands on too?
Yeah, a little bit.
I wasn't that hands on. I don't remember why, but I was busy and I wasn't able to be there. But I was well represented. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, we were so thrilled with his performance with Jennifer Lewis on the number that they did together that we kept saying we need to find a way to get more of him. And
Yeah.
so the final song that we wrote for the film was I Could Get Used to This. And we literally said, we've got John Lithgow, let's give him a showcase. And he knocked it out of the park again.
I'm so glad you brought that song up. It's one of those songs that kind of transcends this movie. When we're talking about tolerance, we're talking about acceptability and teaching kids that, hey, trying new things is okay, different is good, which is unfortunately a message that some are trying to push back against. Tell me just quickly about kind of how that song came to be. I know you mentioned that you wanted to do something for John, but in terms of the messaging and bringing it all together.
Yeah,
Right.
so we obviously knew that one of the big messages for Elian in this story is that you know you life hands you what life is going to hand you, and you can push back against it, or you can understand that you need to find a way to accept it and make it part of your life. And
Mhm.
she's not ready to hear that yet at this point in the film. But we thought that by giving her advisor a similar arc where he is handed something that is unacceptable, that he struggles against and fights against, and then realizes, it's not as bad as I thought. Once I understood that this is how it's going to be, it's not as bad as I thought.
And it also had that ideal comic premise, and God knows that's definitely a color that the score
Yeah,
needs, and it really helps.
yeah, but we were able to sell it to our co-workers by saying, yes, thematically this fits into the story. And once they got there, they were like, oh my God, we see it. And they helped us look back at the story and figure out how to retell Flink's and Bolinar's story throughout so that it would land in the right place.
Thank you so much for taking a little time to talk with me about this film.
Thank
It
you.
Thank
really
you.
is special, and I can't wait for more people to see it. I think it's
Thank you.
gonna
It means a lot. Thank
be a
you.
big deal. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank
Thanks.
you. You too.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.